Hello, this is Angelia, and you are listening to or watching the podcast Why You Do What You Do. The podcast that talks about human development and psychology to maybe try and help you figure out a little bit more about why you do what you do. And last time we were talking about, maturation in the human body, sexual maturation. No giggling. But now we're going to take up on physical and mental health. So these years are generally healthy, as most adolescents recognize. So most of the time in your teens, you're pretty healthy. 9 out of 10 early and mid-adolescents consider themselves healthy, according to an international school-based survey of more than 120,000 11, 13, and 15-year-olds in the United States and 27 other Western industrialized countries under the auspices of the World Health Organization. So they did a study, and these kids said, in general, yeah, we're pretty healthy, and if you remember back to when you were a teen, you pretty much were. Still, despite their general good health, many younger adolescents, especially girls, reported frequent health problems and symptoms, such as headaches, stomach aches, backaches, nervousness, and feeling tired, lonely, or low. And that can all be pointed towards the nervousness thing, the anxiety, because girls are especially prone to anxiety, and especially in the time where their hormones are flooding them, and they're, nervous about where they fit in. Such reports were most common in the United States and Israel, perhaps because life in those countries tends to be more fast-paced and stressful. Most adolescents have low rates of disability and chronic disease, and dental health has improved among both children and adolescents. Clearly mine's not great because my insurance doesn't cover it, so you might have noticed. Still, about 1/5 of 10 to 18-year-olds in the United States have at least one serious physical or mental health problem, and many more need counseling or other health services. So again, if your child has a problem, get it taken care of. When they're sick, take them to the doctor. If they're mentally off and you can tell, take them to a counselor or psychologist who can help them with that too. No shame in it. Many health problems are preventable, stemming from lifestyle or poverty. In industrialized countries, according to the World Health Organization survey, adolescents from less affluent families tend to report poorer health and more frequent symptoms. Healthcare and the ability to get it, the money situation does come into play. More well-off adolescents tend to have healthier diets and to be more physically active, which, just goes to say, if the parents are affluent, they can afford better food, the children can eat better, and therefore the child is healthier. Okay, had to pause there, somebody came in. On the other hand, socioeconomic status seems to have no effect on smoking and drinking among 15-year-olds. So, no matter what walk of life you come from, there are, 15-year-olds who are going to try smoking and drinking. That's just the unfortunate fact of life. Within the United States, across ethnic and social class lines, many early adolescents use drugs, drive while intoxicated, and become sexually active. And these behaviors increase throughout the teenage years, unfortunately. Adolescents whose families have been disrupted by parental segregation, separation, or death, and that could be due because of incarceration, are more likely to start these activities early and to engage in them more frequently during the next few years. So broken families can make broken people, and they might turn to drugs, alcohol, early sex pairs, to kind of try and help overcome these, broken families. Boys and girls who enter puberty early or whose cognitive maturation comes late are especially prone to risky behavior. The faster they mature, the more prone they are to this. And if they put it nicely here, cognitive maturation, your maturity, how smart you are, comes later, the more prone you are to engaging in risky activities. Adolescents are less likely than younger children to see a physician regularly. They more frequently go to school-based health centers. An estimated 18.7% of young people in grades 7 through 12 do not receive the medical care they need, most of the time because of procrastination or fear of what a doctor will say, but in about 14% of cases because of inability to pay. So sometimes they're just worried the doctor's going to give them a lecture, or that something might be wrong with them. But in some cases, they just don't legitimately have the money to go. Young people who do not receive the needed care are at an increased risk of physical and mental health problems, including frequent smoking and drinking, because they're not taking care of themselves, and they figure, who cares? I'll do this. No one cares, and they mess up their life. Excuse me. Exercise, or lack of it, affects both physical and mental health. And it does. If you're not getting some exercise, you should get some exercise every day. I get about 15 minutes because, that's what my doctor recommended, because they said any more is doing more wear and tear on my bones and joints than needs to be done. So, I try to get mine in the morning before I take a shower, and, so I can keep the body moving and the brain going. It improves strength and endurance, helps build the healthy bones and muscles, helps control weight, reduces anxiety and stress, and increases self-confidence. So there's only gain by exercising. Even moderate physical activity has health benefits if done regularly for at least 30 minutes on most and preferably all days of the week. And I know people who did even more. When I was younger, like I said, I think I was probably anorexic around the age of 17. And I used to exercise for an hour a day. And, I had a slim figure, but then, in the mid-30s, I started having arthritis and things like that. So probably was not the best thing for me to be doing to my young body, probably. A sedentary lifestyle that carries over into adulthood may result in increased risk of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. When my kids were little, we had playtime, and they'd go outside for like half an hour a day, and we'd get some kind of exercise. And when their father was still around, we would walk around the block and things of that nature. So some kind of exercise is needed now. Of course, once they get grown, they can do what they want, but you can still say, you should get some exercise. Many boys, and especially girls, become less active during adolescence. And that's just a fact of life. They're more tired, because their body is putting these higher demands on them, and they actually need more sleep, but they usually don't get it, and we'll get into that later. They do slow down a little bit once they get into their adolescence. Play is not necessarily rough and tumble physical stuff at that point in age. Adolescents in the United States exercise less often in past years and less frequently than adolescents in most other Western industrialized countries. So, our American kids are sitting on their butts, on the computer, the TV, or whatever, and they're just not going out and getting any exercise because, our society is not geared towards it anymore. And in fact, with the high rate of crime and, problems, sometimes it's not even really safe for them to be out, at the park or on the corner or whatever, because, you got drive-bys happening and stuff. So, our society's kind of messed our youngsters up. Still, most young Americans get some exercise at least 2 hours a week. And if that's just walking up and down the stairs at school or work or whatever they're doing, at least they're getting some, and that's important. You need to get some because, if you don't get any, you're going to fall apart. Young people who exercise generally feel better than those who do not. And I know that. I know on days I don't get mine in, I'm stiffer that day, I can tell you. They tend to be more confident and spend more time with friends, suggesting that they may use sports as a means of socializing. And I know that definitely helped one of my sons a lot. He was not great at socializing. He has Asperger's, and he was told that, he might have to actually be put in home later on. And I think that's terrible for a doctor to just say that when the kid is a toddler. But he did socialize during sports and made a few good friends. And I think that really brought him out of his shell and enabled him to actually, become a part of society. So, I think that's great when a kid wants to be a part of a team. You should always let them try something. You don't know. That might be a future thing for them. You always, anything a kid wants to try, let them try it. It might not be for them, but it might be for them, and they don't know until they try. Don't hold your kids back. On the other hand, many high school students are injured in sports. And that's true. I had one doctor in the emergency room come at it when this big kid, kicked my son's knee and he got a bone bruise, and he was like giving us the lecture about sport parents forcing your child. I'm like, I'm not forcing him to do anything. It wasn't our idea that he played. It's his idea. He wanted to play, So evidently he'd come across more than one sport parent that was, forcing the kid into things, but, we weren't like that, and you shouldn't be like that. You can't live vicariously through your child, and if you're doing that, you need to realize that you're doing that and stop. The child's life should be their own. They should make their own decisions on what they want to be a part of or not. Some of these injuries could be avoided by grouping players by size, skill, and maturational level instead of by age. By improved equipment designs, and by better supervision and enforcement of safety rules. And I'm going to agree with that because, like I said, the kid that hurt my kid, he was a big guy. I mean, there's no way he should have been in there with them skinny little kids that he was. He looked like he was like 23 years old playing with, teenage kids. I don't know. He might have grew fast. I don't know. But he was definitely too big, and he was hurting people. And his father was encouraging this. Yeah, do it again, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? And, there became a little discussion between us, but he wasn't going to bully me, I don't care how big you are. You ain't going to encourage people to hurt my child. You're going to find some problems there. Many adolescents do not get enough sleep, and that's a fact, and I know I didn't. I would lay in bed for an hour or two, sitting there thinking about things, when I was supposed to be going to sleep. They go to bed later than younger children, and on school days, get up as early or earlier. So, they're losing sleep in that schedule. Yet early adolescents need almost as much sleep as before, about 9 hours per night. So if your kid is going to bed too late, you say, hey, you need to go to bed early. You got to get up at 5:30 or whatever the time is, 6:30, depends on when their bus comes, I guess. They need to get in bed earlier, and you're within your right to say that as their parents. Still, they're not 18 yet, and say, you need 9 hours of sleep. You need to get to bed. Nor does sleeping in on weekends make up for the loss, because that's a lot of teenagers do. They won't get enough sleep. They'll get, 4 to 6 hours of sleep through the week. Then they'll try and sleep in on the weekends, make up for that. And it really doesn't. It does help the brain, but it doesn't make up for all the nights of sleep that they lost. Adolescents or pre-adolescents who have irregular sleep schedules tend to be chronically sleep deprived and to be sleepy in the daytime. And if we all go back, think back to high school, we knew there was these couple of kids that, would routinely fall asleep in class, and that was probably because they weren't getting enough sleep at home. And the brain's like, we just can't do this anymore. Sleep-deprived adolescents tend to show symptoms of depression, have sleep problems, and do poorly in school. And that's because, they're not getting enough sleep. In a survey of 3,120 Rhode Island high school students, total sleep time diminished by 40 to 50 minutes between age 13 and 19. And students who got the least sleep got the worst grades. So there is a correlation between grades and sleep. Express that to the kids. You need to get sleep and you can do better in school, because it's a fact. You can throw it out there. It's a fact. They done studies. It's a thing. Why do teenagers stay up late? In part, it may be because they need to do homework, like to talk on the phone with friends, or surf the web, or want to act grown up. Because we all remember, I remember when I was a kid and we got to stay up like a half hour later each, milestone in the life, I remember when we were very little, we had to go to bed at 8 o'clock. I mean, the good shows were just coming on at 8 o'clock. We had to go to bed. It's still light in the summertime, It wasn't cool. However, physiological changes also may be involved. Adolescents undergo a shift in the brain's natural sleep cycle, or circadian timing system, the timing of secretion of melatonin, a hormone detectable in saliva, is a gauge of when the brain is ready for sleep. And a lot of people that have problems sleeping will take some melatonin. I know some people who do. After puberty, this secretion takes place later at night. So, it's a natural thing that a teenager wants to stay up later. Thus, adolescents need to go to bed later and get up later than younger children. But that's not usually what happens, is it? Yet most secondary schools start earlier than elementary schools. So see, we're sleep depriving our kids by making the younger kids, get up earlier. And that's become a thing here in America. And the reason is so that the older kids can watch the younger kids when they get home from school. That is how that came about. But in theory, the younger kids should get up earlier, go to bed earlier, and the older kids should get up later and stay later. So, we kind of have screwed that up here in America for our own little convenience. Their schedules are out of sync with students' biological rhythms. These findings fit in with the adolescent's daily mood cycles, which also may be hormonally related. So again, back with the hormones are kicking in and all these things are happening to them, and it can just mess your sleep cycle and everything else in your life up. Teenagers tend to be least alert and most stressed early in the morning. So by getting these kids up earlier than they naturally would, we're screwing them up. We're setting them up for failure. Starting school later, or at least offering difficult courses later in the day, would maximize students' ability to concentrate. There are some countries where the high schoolers start later. Like I said, the U.S. has got it backwards. We got it messed up because we like for the older kids to be home earlier, so when the younger kids can come home, they can keep an eye on them. And that's how that came about. But that's not naturally how it works. U.S. adolescents have less healthy diets than those in most other Western industrialized countries. Our kids eat the most crap. They eat fewer fruits and vegetables and more sweets, chocolate, soft drinks, and other junk foods, which are high in cholesterol, fat, and calories, and low in nutrients. And here in America, we're all kind of like that. So, if you're offering healthier choices, sometimes you can get those kids to eat healthier choices. So, if you're still in charge of what you're buying in the house, you need to make sure there's some healthy food in the house. Deficiencies of calcium, zinc, and iron are common at this age and may have cognitive effects. Iron deficiency has been linked to lower standardized math scores. So again, evidently math is one of those things that requires certain nutrients that help it. Evidently I was always low in iron and my math scores were lowest, so there might have been a correlation there. Eating disorders, both extreme overeating and extreme undereating, are most prevalent in industrialized societies, where food is abundant and attractiveness is equated with slimness. And like I said, I was probably a little anorexic when I was younger. But you need to talk with the kids about their body image and what real bodies look like, so that it doesn't become an issue in their life. The average teenage girl needs about 2,300 calories per day, and the average teenage boy needs about 2,800. Surprise there, isn't it? Many adolescents eat more calories than they expend, and thus accumulate excess levels of body fat. The percentage of U.S. young people who are overweight has almost doubled in the past 2 decades. So our kids are eating too much fat. Today, more than 15% of 12 to 19-year-olds are obese. So, that's not a super high number, but it's still higher than in the past. The rise in obesity has been especially marked among Mexican American and Black adolescents who, culturally have more fat in the diet, than some other cultures do. Some causes of obesity, too little physical activity and poor eating habits, are to some extent within a young person's control, because you can teach them that you are what you eat. So if you're eating crap, you're going to feel like crap, you're going to look like crap. Weight loss programs that use behavioral modification techniques to help adolescents make changes in diet and exercise have had some success. So like I said, education is empowerment. The more they learn, the better they can do. And it is your job to teach your child. You might send them off to school and think that's the school. No, it's your job as well to teach your child. However, as we have pointed out, genetic and other factors have nothing to do with willpower or lifestyle choices, which seem to make some people susceptible to obesity. So there might be some emotional issues there where they have low impulse control, and that's something that a counselor or psychologist can help them deal with. And again, there are people who just choose. They're like, I know this is going to hurt me, but I'm going to do it anyway. Life is short. I'm going to enjoy what I can while I can. And again, you can get them to talk to somebody, but you can't make someone do. Says the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So among those factors are faulty regulation of metabolism, inability to recognize body cues about hunger and satisfaction, and development of an abnormally large amount of fat cells. Because if you don't know you're full, if you can't feel when you're full or feel when you're hungry, until your stomach starts, I guess I'm hungry, and then you eat a lot because you can't feel when you're full, or you eat because you're bored or whatever, then you're going to eat too much and you're going to have all these calories that you're not burning off. So you're going to gain weight. And the studies say the fatter you get, the more fat cells you have, the more your body craves that. And that also has to do with your brain, because your brain likes fat. Fat helps to make the myelin sheaths that connect the neurons. So the brain is perfectly okay with you being as fat as you can be, because in the previous years, when man was walking around hunting his food, gathering food, you got a lot of exercise. So being too fat was not as big a problem as it is now. So you need to teach your kids that it does have serious health risks if you're too fat. And that's where I'm going to leave you today. And I hope this helped you to figure out maybe a little bit more about why you do what you do. Please like and share so we can get this educational program shared across the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, um, you know, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. That's all for now. Until next time.